Welcome to the W Show, thanks to NAB. We're at the business end of the season, finals on the horizon, a premiere to be crowned for season 7. Sarah Ollie in the host chair today, and another Sarah is here, as she is every week on the couch, award-winning journalist Sarah Black. Sarah, finals are here, baby. It's an exciting time.
I know, only 4 games, but I can't wait for these 4 games. They're going to be super high quality.
And super lucky to have a person of high quality here on the couch with you, Essendon co-captain Bonnie Toogood. Bon, congratulations on finishing the season on a high. You've got to be pretty happy. First ever season for the Dons and the 4 wins.
I'm very pleased and I'm very proud of the group. And also, Sarah, it's great to join you today. It's the first time we've been on a show together, so I'm very keen. But yes, we've very pleased with our season. With the narrow losses that we have had, they've been close and against quality sides. So for us, and we're in the reflection period now where we kind of get to review the season a little bit more and in more depth. And I'm really proud of the girls and what we've been able to do in such a short amount of time. And we got to sing the song 4 times and can't wait for the years to come to sing it many more times.
And Bon, you know, you finished off the season really nicely, comprehensive win over Port Adelaide in heavy rain, I think it's safe to say. There was one sour note, the injury to Lily Rose Williamson. We've seen the tackle landed on her neck, unfortunately. Maria Maloney's taken a 2-match suspension for that. How's Lily Rose going? She's
okay. She's been all cleared, which is great, going through all the scans and the whole medical process. And she's a bit sore, let's say, but yeah, she was such a trooper. She was quite scared, as you would be. Like, as soon as you kind of feel the neck brace going on, you do get terrifying. A little bit scared there. And I was lucky enough to be right next to her just to know that she's safe, and it's the medicos know what they're doing. So she's all good though. She's been cleared, and it was a bit of a sour note to it all, but to know that she's okay and just got to rest up a little bit is all good.
Now, the game was in Adelaide. Did she have to delay her trip home or anything like that?
Yeah, she did. She had to go through the whole process of making sure that she could be cleared. Like, you can't rush those kinds of things, especially when it comes to neck and spinal injuries and things like that. So she came back a little bit later. We had our development, Sparky, our personal development manager. She stayed there and with her to keep her company and make sure she had the support that she needed.
Well, that is certainly good news. And speaking of news, it's time for our NAB news, because we've got an injury watch on a few players, a few stars as we head into finals. As you can see there, Bruce Skipper, Emma Carney, Erica O'Shea, Georgie Press-Barkis, who's been on fire, and of course Chelsea Randall. She's in doubt for first week of the finals. It'd be amazing if she got up. Some congratulations are in order. Brisbane forward Jessie Wardlaw, she's won the season 7 leading goal kicker. What a star she is. And speaking of stars, some rising star nominees, Cynthia Hamilton and Indy Teho from Port Adelaide, the NAB AFLW Rising Stars. Now, Sarah, Chelsea Randall, surely she's not getting up this week. You've just spoken to the Crows and she's going to be a test.
Yeah, I was quite surprised with this one. So, you know, she went over on her ankle and it looked like it was quite a bad one. There's, you know, different degrees, obviously, of ankle injuries. And she was initially ruled out for 3 to 5 weeks. 3 weeks would take her to this week, inclusive of this week, but she is a test. So whether they play her against Melbourne, Bon, that's going to be a big question, because they do have the second chance.
They do have the second chance, but knowing Chelsea, she would do everything so diligently. So if you got a span of 3 to 5 weeks, I have no doubt she was like, I'm getting back on that 3 weeks. She's such an amazing leader, and to have her in the side against Melbourne would be so beneficial. So if she's a test, that's a great congratulations to her, and hopefully she gets up because that makes the Friday night's game a very good one.
It certainly does indeed. Let's see how the ladder panned out after the 10 rounds of the home and away season. The Lions, the minor premierships, only just, though. I think Melbourne needed 1 more point against West Coast to claim that minor premiership. So, of course, that means the Lions will get first rights to a home grand final. And there's your side, Bon, finishing in 10th, the best of the expansion sides this year. You've got to be really thrilled with that.
We really are, and we can take that little one of being the best of the expansion sides. And as I said, we had narrow losses, so we could have, you know, had a few more wins on the boards, which we could have made finals, which is always a would have, could have when you're at the reflection process of the season. But really proud of what we've done, as I said earlier, and yeah, to be up there as the best expansion side, we'll take it and be very proud of that.
So it all kicks off the finals on Friday night at Icon Park. Let's have a look at those matches. The D's to take on the Crows. The Lions then meet the Tigers, and then the 2 elimination finals, the Cats and North, the Pies and the Dogs. How do you go watching, Bon? Clearly you would like to be out there running around in the finals. Will you watch all the games and diligently study, I guess, the form? Are you into that?
I do. I'm a little bit of a footy nerd, so I will be watching all of those games for sure. It is a little bit bittersweet when you don't make finals. I think, like, for the seasons that we've all had, a lot of people have played 2 seasons in 1 year. There are some tired bodies out there, but then in the same breath, I'd love to be playing finals right now because finals footy is where it's at, and then the intensity increases, and it's a really exciting time. So I'll be watching all 4 games very diligently.
And a game that we're going to narrow our focus on is the Lions and the Tigers. Now, this game, Sarah, is incredibly interesting because the Lions have only lost 1 game for the season, and it was to the Tigers.
Yeah, this game was all the way back. It feels like a million years ago.
It does.
It was AFL Men's Grand Final day, so it was sort of lost a little bit in all of that. Super windy conditions at Punt Road, very blustery, but the Tigers' desperation and their endeavour is something that we hadn't really seen from Richmond before, and it really set up their season really well. So that was the second of their winning streak, and of course it's the only game that the Lions have dropped. So I think a little bit of revenge might be on the cards for this weekend.
How do you go about beating them? We saw that the Tigers did do it earlier in the year, but Dakota Davidson, she had a moment that she'd like to take back when she could have kicked the winner. What's been so central to the Lions' form this year, Bon?
It's their fitness and their outside run. Playing them in round 6, they are just able to push to contest in their midfield. And they've been together for 6 years and they know what their running patterns are and they're able to utilise them really well. So getting them on the outside and they're going to have to take Richmond's pressure on the weekend because that's what won Richmond the game in round 5. So they've got to withstand that pressure and then get them on the outside and get their forwards in one-on-one situations.
And you've noticed something from behind the goals. They have a bit of a technique in keeping a goalie or a goalkeeper kind of back there.
Yeah, so last time they played, Richmond had immense pressure around the source of the stoppage, yet they had a defender that sat back. So they allowed Brisbane's high forward to go into the stoppage and their defender just held back to impact on a loose ball like we're seeing here and drive it forward. So what Brisbane have to do is they have to not just use the numbers around the ball. So they can't just blast away and kick it without looking. They're going to have an extra number where the footy is. So if they can get their run and carry and get their handball receives going, they'll be able to avoid that defender by changing the angles. And
Sarah, you've actually seen some parallels between the men's program there and the women's. You think that perhaps there's even players playing similar roles, like a David Asprey?
Yeah, this is the one where obviously I've watched Richmond men's a lot over the particularly the last 5 years or so. Ryan Ferguson was a development coach for the men's program, and that goalkeeper role, that is that. In the old terms, the David Asprey role, where he would stand there and then you'd have, Nick Floss and all that coming in to intercept. So for the girls, it's a Libby Graham or it's a Laura McClelland who sort of plays that role. You've got Beck Miller in an intercept role, Maddie Shevlin before she was injured, and Ailish Sheeran, of course. So, it's quite a similarly structured defence, albeit with 5 players instead of 6.
Now, heading into the last round of the home and away season, we weren't sure where certain teams were going to finish, and the Bulldogs, they really needed to get a win to ensure they got that 8th position, and star power all across the field, but one player in particular, Ali Blackburn. She was absolutely incredible. She literally put her teammates on her back. She said, "Come with me," and had an outstanding day. 23 disposals, 9 clearances, 7 tackles, 2 goals, and the goal that won the game, Bonnie. Does any other player in the league consistently win games off their own boot? Because Ali seems to do it season in, season out.
Yes, and I've been a part of some of those. They're pretty exciting when she gets on the end of a goal-winning goal. I think there are a few players, like Bree Davey at her best, as you said earlier off air, Sarah, is that when she's up and going, she's more than capable of doing it also. But give Ali credit for what she did the other night. It was tough conditions, as you said earlier off air as well, that she played to the conditions.
She's smart, isn't she?
She's a very smart footballer. She's a great leader and was able to step up really when the team needed her to. And those sidestep goals, they're pretty impressive, 48 out.
And it's a fun conversation to have, Bonnie. Like, you know, we're talking about the best of the best, you know, players who can win the game off their own boot. So, you know, you mentioned Bree Davey. I'd add in Jasmine Garner. Not that she's necessarily needed at times. North Melbourne are generally a bit more of an even team. Kiara Bowers, we've seen her do it in the past. Chelsea Randall. Like these, I think this is what separates a good player from a great player.
Absolutely, and it's so important when you have, especially midfielders, like we spoke about Bree, and Jazzy, when they start hitting the scoreboard, it's so damaging. So to have them in your team, and then when they step up when they need to in those moments, it's really crucial to get over the line, especially in finals.
So and Erin Phillips as well.
Oh, I forgot about Erin Phillips. Yes, her. Yeah, of course.
The prototype, winning it off their own.
Yes,
absolutely. So the Bulldogs, they are going to take on the Magpies in an elimination final at Icon Park on Sunday. Now, I've given you both an assignment. Sarah, you're going to tell us how Collingwood can win. And then, Bonnie, you're going to give us the Dogs' blueprint. Sarah, take it away for the Magpies. How do they get the, I was going to say 4 points, but how do they get the win and progress through to the second week of finals?
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to just grab a bonus 4 points in there as well? Unsurprisingly, first point of order for Steve Simons and the Magpie crew is to work out what they're going to do with Ellie Blackburn. I feel like the Dogs' midfield isn't quite deep enough as it needs to be, you know, to push really far into finals, and Ellie's that real linchpin there. So, you know, you send someone like a Michaela Can, who has the physical capabilities, who can play a bit more of a defensive role on Ellie to really shut that down. I'd like them also to look at limiting the impact that Alice Edmonds has, particularly in the hitouts. She's been key to Ellie's success, Kirsty Lamb and Jess Fitzgerald as well. They're sort of the three midfielders they go to. So, you know, the Collingwood mids, whether it is Michaela Can, Ash Sheridan, Chloe Malloy, Ruby Slisher, to be really looking at how Alice is setting up in order to shark that tap. Finally, Chloe Malloy. Speaking of players who can turn a game and to win it off their own boot, Chloe has done it a few times now in finals in particular. We know what she can do in the home and away season, but she feels like one of those players who can really rise to the occasion. She's done it a few times against North Melbourne, so high quality opposition. She's bobbed up against the Lions as well. Chloe's going to be the one that, whether it's a Katie Lynch and Eleanor Brown, you know, whether they throw Sarah Hartwig back there also who can do that job, and really looking at shutting down Chloe's match-winning ability.
She can get off the chain, can't she? And she's the kind of player that could really provide a spark bond for the Pies because she can do things that not many others can.
That's exactly what I was about to say. She's one of those players that provides that spark. And in finals footy, when you have that moment, like, it's all about taking your critical moments. And Chloe tends to do that time and time again. So she is one of those that takes a moment. It's going to lift the team so much, and it's so important.
Having said that, though, you've been given the Bulldogs assignments. So how do the Bulldogs get the win?
I think it's really important for the Bulldogs to have high pressure at the source. Defence becomes really important in finals because the intensity increases, and to stop Collingwood's outside run. I think if they're midfielders and that they start getting passages of play that allow one-on-ones with their forwards, so say an Eleanor Brown or a Katie Lynch is one-on-one with Chloe Malloy, it's because it would start from getting a clear chain out of the midfield. So pressure at the source is going to be really important, as well as when they're going forward, is changing their angles and how they're entering their forward 50, because if they keep just going straight, they're going to kick to Stacey Livingston or Lauren Butler, who are great defenders who can intercept really well. So if they change their lines, use short kicks and lower their eyes into your Gabby Newton, you've got Celine Moody down there, you've got Sarah Hartwig, who's been a little bit of a game changer for them up in the forward line. So if you're changing those angles in the forward line, I think you can exploit the Collingwood's defence.
You might have to give your old coach Nathan Burke a phone call and just relay that message. That was very good. Let's move on to the other elimination final with, of course, the Cats to face North Melbourne. This one down at the Cattery, 7:10 p.m. on Saturday. Really looking forward to this one. And Sarah, the Cats, up to round 4, they looked a certain way. Post round 4, they're kicking bigger scores, and Shelley Scott, she has been central to this.
She really has. So between rounds 1 and 4, Geelong averaged 17.3 points a game, and we sort of, you know, we're expecting a bit more of a dour season from Geelong and a real focus on defence. Shelley was down in the back line. They switched her forward. They brought Maddie Kerrick back into the side in defence. And since then, Geelong are now averaging 52.5 points from round 5 onwards. Obviously, the 100-point score they piled on the weekend blew that out a little bit. But Shelley's been a key part of that. She hasn't been the only one. Coach Dan Lowther's been pretty strong on the fact that they've looked at a few different ways of getting the ball inside 50. Meg McDonald spoke yesterday at the AFLW finals launch and said that some of it's also just confidence. It's, being able to play together a little bit more. And it's only the second season under Dan Lowther, Bon. So, a new side, a new coach, it's going to take a little bit of a while for that chemistry to develop.
Most definitely something that we're going through at the moment, 10 games in. But yes, that connection piece, especially inside forward 50, it's one of the most important connection pieces on the footy field. When you get that right, which they have been doing since round 5, you can see the score line just increase for them. And for Shelley Scott, she's scored 9 goals in 6 games, so it's been a great move. But then it's also freed up Shea, so she's been having a terrific season and piling on the goals. And then you've got a key target like Jackie Parry as well. So you've got almost a really scary looking forward line that can stack on the goals. So it's not just Shelley, it's definitely the whole team and how they're moving it, but you've got some real key pillars down there that's going to hold them in good stead.
And they've certainly looked scarier since round 4, which is the last time they met, and North Melbourne got up by 12 points. Now, we did flag off the top that there are some injury concerns at North Melbourne. Emma Carney, their skipper, she did not play against Richmond on the weekend with some knee soreness, and also her teammate Erica O'Shea says she's got a bit of an eye concern. What are you hearing out of their camp?
Yeah, so 2 tests again. I think Carney's much more likely. I feel like that was a real precautionary one against Richmond. They knew they'd qualified for finals, so, you put the skipper on ice, especially when it's a bit of an impact injury there, and rest is key. Erica, a little bit more of a concern. Obviously, the eye, you want to take as many precautions as possible. She just accidentally ran into Courtney Wakefield's elbow, which, can happen when you're playing footy, but is also, quite painful. The issue with those 2 players in particular, Bonnie, is that they're a huge source of drive out of defence.
Yeah, they do. They provide such a run off their half-back line, and it is so crucial in the women's game is to be able to surge that ball forward, and off the half-back is a perfect place to do it. Carney, you also miss almost having a coach out there on the field. She's been around the game so long. She knows what she's doing. That move to half-back has been great for her and her game. So you're also missing that solid head, and obviously your skipper as well.
Emma Carney, you know her pretty well, Bon, having played alongside her. I mean, she'd have to be on one leg, wouldn't she, not to play? She will be putting her name down, as the first magnet on the board.
She's one of the toughest players, and you said it, she'll play on one leg if she has to, and she'll do that for her team, I have no doubt.
All right, let's move on to Melbourne and Adelaide, because that is going to be an absolutely cracking qualifying final. Of course, it was the grand final last season. Sarah, these are 2 sides that probably aren't stacked at the same point at this point in time. I feel like Melbourne have really been building all year, but the Crows, they've just dropped off a little bit, haven't they? Just
a touch. Saying that, they're still, I think, clearly the 3rd best side in the competition. Yeah. I think, there'd be a little bit of concern about how difficult it was for them to put away St Kilda, whereas other teams have found that quite straightforward. That was in round 10, so they're not coming in off the best form, whereas Melbourne obviously 77-1 over West Coast. They're full of confidence.
And they've got danger players everywhere you look. And at Melbourne, Olivia Purcell has been on absolute fire.
She really has. When we were talking about, danger players for both sides, Melbourne you could have thrown up. Yeah, no, you could have thrown up all 21 players. But Liv feels like she's in the best form of the group. You sort of forget that she's had a knee reconstruction, and because she was so good at Geelong, disappeared, for a little while and was still trying to get that form back. And I think the 2 seasons in 1 year, I think has really benefited Liv. But she's got a nice little partner in crime in Eliza Westbond.
She does. Eliza West is very much their link-up player, and those 2 are a little dynamic duo, both racking up the disposals, and I think they're going to be really hard to stop on Friday night.
It's kind of similar to the Richmond situation where everyone's talking about Mon Conti, but without Grace Egan, she's probably not having that kind of season. And they're the kind of players that perform roles week in, week out, and they're the kind of players there that in big matches are really important.
And Eliza has proven form against the Crows as well. She was the one who really kick-started them in round 1 of this season. You know, they had a superb handball game going, and that's what really caught the Crows on the hop. So I'm sure the Crows and Matthew Clark will be looking at, like you said earlier, Bonnie, about the Bulldogs and the Pies, putting pressure around the contest, around the source, to prevent Melbourne getting those handball chains going.
Now, when it comes to dangerous players at the Crows, Danielle Ponter, you'd be circling her name if you were coming up against her, because, Bonnie, what we've seen, particularly over the last couple of weeks, is that she has amazing timing and can actually turn the game off of one set of play.
She's got such flair, and I think that she's matured a lot, and as we see just there, she knows the perfect teasing distance to be able to impact and intercept. She's done that a couple times this year, and that closing speed that she has is so impressive, and she's just a spark. She's just a really smart player, and also knows how to kick a goal.
She does indeed. She loves a celebration as well. She's one of many Crows who have proven over a long time that they are very dangerous and they are players to watch out for in big games. Of course, that won the grand final rematch. Gut feel, how do you feel like that one's going to go?
I feel like Melbourne just have the edge, but you know, why would you write off Adelaide? I feel like I feel like that's a very stupid thing to do, Bonnie.
It would be a very silly thing for us to do. I'm just leaning towards Melbourne because they're just really...
They're humming,
They're humming. They know their running patterns. Their handball receives have just skyrocketed this year, and they're humming in that area. And Chelsea Randall?
Well, if she's in, it's a different equation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of humming, you've been humming today, Bonnie, so thank you for coming on. I feel like you'd be a bit of a hummer in the off-season as well. Any plans, any holidays or trips?
Oh, I'm thinking of enjoying the off-season and going away, that's for sure. I'm very excited to have a break and switch off.
You certainly deserve it, and we really appreciate you coming on the show today. We do have a little gift for you. It's from the 2nd Avenue Grocer, a valued NAB customer, and is a marketplace for fresh seasonal produce, rare cheese, yum, sliced meats, specialty pantry items, plus plenty of inspiration for your next meal, located at the heart of Altona, and also available online at http://2ndAvenueGrocer.com.au. I guess it's the off-season now, so you can dig into all that kind of stuff.
I'm very much looking forward to that, and I'm really hoping I can take a mug as well.
Well, I'm not sure
you are
about
a fan of the mugs, aren't you?
I love the W Show mugs. They're great.
We might get Hayley to order you some. Bon, thanks so much. Sarah, you've been fantastic. This is the pointy end of the season. It's where it starts to get really big. Keep clicking back to women's.afl and the Women's AFL Live app. That's where you're going to find all the latest footy news for big finals coming up.